In his movies, auteur Woody Allen repeatedly challenges society's conceptions of sex. To do this, he uses comedy to make a mockery of many beliefs on the subject, including religion playing a role in making the decision to have sex, trying to make the moment perfect, the inclusion of emotions, and many other aspects that he deems absurd. To begin, Allen shows the audience his plans for the future of sex in the futuristic comedy Sleeper. This film is a portrayal of what Allen believes sex is becoming. The protagonist, Miles, is from 200 years ago, and his beliefs that sex is related to love, sensuality, and monogamy are representative of society today. On the other hand, Luna, a woman from the future, feels it is a casual group activity which disregards all current beliefs. In one scene, Miles encounters an object called the orgasmic orb, which is used by people to receive pleasure. The reliance of futuristic people on objects to obtain pleasure shows how in reality society is transitioning to become focused solely on pleasure instead of emotional connections. The orb is passed around a circle of people as the guests take turns experiencing its delights. This scene is an exaggeration of today's emphasis on using toys and drugs to enhance sexual pleasures. This is even an allusion to the use of Viagra and other objects to maximize sexual experiences. Allen is showing how marriages and relationships fail because sex is not pleasurable enough. Sex is no longer about procreation or a shared passion between spouses, but instead about achieving extreme pleasures in any way possible. In every edition of Men's Health or Cosmopolitan magazine, there is at least one article about bettering your sexual relationship, showing a growing tension of obsession over sex. As the scene progresses, it seems that the orb is the main focus of the party. Here, Allen portrays a swinger party involving very casual sex and intercourse between multiple partners. The involved people casually take turns passing the orb around and taking a hit from it, so to speak. Once everyone is excited, they take a swim, as Allen refers to it, which is most likely a giant orgy in the pool. The structure of the sex party shows how routine sex is, that it is comparable to doing drugs, and that it is not special in the least bit. Although Allen plays Miles, his role is his way of mocking conservative viewpoints on sex and its ties to relationships. Another sex machine in Sleeper is the Orgasmatron, which is a telephone booth-like machine that takes care of sex for couples. This device eliminates the need for sex, as we know it today, or as Luna calls it, manual sex. All the effort, technique, and error of sex is removed. Allen portrays the machine as being superior to old sex, and in this way shows that sex today is not what it used to be. The Orgasmatron, like the orgasmic orb, mocks the common beliefs about sex, including that it must be between married spouses, it is often unsatisfying, and that longer experiences are better. The Orgasmatron is a quick, very satisfying experience that produces what seems like an unattainable orgasm for the couple. Here, Allen explains that sex should feel good and promote happiness rather than lead to frustration or divorce. Woody Allen believes that sex is not to be something only shared by marriage or limited to a monogamous relationship. It seems he believes sex is a way of staying happy and relationships are worthless if they do not include sexual satisfaction. For this reason, in Sleeper, sex was not involved in relationships and machines fulfilled all sexual desires. Allen also believes that emotions and relationships only ruin sex, and sex is often the only relaxing part about them. For that reason, in Sleeper, sex is as casual as playing a game of hot potato at a party, or as portrayed in the film, simply touching a ball. Sleeper is an exaggeration of Woody Allen's view of the perfect world involving no relationships, but instead having free and great sex. Now, even in comedies about war, Allen manages to still include a few humorous scenes. In one scene, he portrays sex as negatively regarded by society. Mellish awkwardly looks at pornographic magazines and then cautiously looks around to make sure that he is not being watched. His behavior suggests that people are often self-conscious about being deemed perverted by society. This is further supported when Mellish deliberately states the names of the magazines in which he is uninterested. He does this because he feels the items he actually intends to purchase will make him appear iniquitous by society. His behavior proves to the audience that sex is so sacred speaking, or even thinking about it outside of the bedroom is like committing a crime. Unfortunately, views like this are inaccurate because most people partake in sexual activities and are interested in the subject in general. Ideas that sexual feelings are inappropriate give these concepts negative outlooks and cause people to feel criminal for engaging in activities such as buying simple magazines. At the start of the scene, Mellish and Nancy walk through the door, and within seconds of getting into the room, they begin kissing passionately in an attempt to initiate sex. Nancy is seemingly indifferent initially. Every time they begin getting intimate, Nancy discovers a new problem which interrupts the act. Although Mellish is clearly annoyed, he follows her orders in hopes to finally have sex with her. This is Alan's way of commenting on gender differences in regards to sex. Women typically want to stall things as long as possible, while men typically want to rush. These disturbances, however, also prevent the viewer from becoming emotionally involved. This is because as soon as they believe the couple will have sex, their hopes are destroyed by another request from Nancy. Her requests to have the perfect lighting, temperature, and mood portray how people wish for sex to be perfect and are willing to sacrifice the moment in order to have their demands met. Alan's portrayal of this scene is his way of making fun of these expectations and showing how they can ruin a sexual experience. Woody Allen also suggests that sex is solely a sport. When Mellish and Nancy finally consummate their marriage, the act is narrated by television hosts. The scene begins with the first commentator introducing the audience to a television show called Wild World of Sports. While saying this, he is surrounded by crowds of people anticipating an exciting show. The commentator then turns the audience over to Howard, his right-hand man, who states that he will be giving the play-by-play for the evening. When Nancy enters the hotel room, she is surrounded by an audience but is not concerned as to why they are even there. This can be seen as an allusion to pornography, and that the stars of these movies expect and are comfortable with being watched by strangers. Next, Mellish joins. He enters the room as a boxer would enter the ring, anticipating a tough fight. Soon they begin having sex while the onlookers cheer and Howard comments on everything that's happening. This gives the audience the illusion that they are watching a boxing match, while in reality they are just watching sex. Woody Allen depicts sex as a sport for people to enjoy and have fun. He emphasizes no emotional connection, but just entertainment. In addition, he prevents the audience from being aroused by portraying the scene as a sport. The sex in this scene can also be interpreted as a porn. This is due to the fact that while people are having sex, people are watching it for their enjoyment. Ultimately, this becomes one of his humorous scenes showing that sex is not that serious, but rather is intended to be fun and enjoyable. In Annie Hall, Allen shows how emotions can ruin sex. An example of this occurs right after Annie and Albie have sex for the first time. They lie together and talk about how incredible their experience was. Albie claims it was the most fun that he had ever had without laughing. At this point, they barely know each other and rely mostly on physical and sexual attraction to amplify their desire to have sex with one another. As they become more emotionally involved, however, their sex life deteriorates. During the final time they have sex before breaking up, Annie becomes distant. This detachment is portrayed by her out-of-body experience. Her projection talks about art while claiming Albie has her body. This signifies that even though he does not have her mind, all that is required for sex is the body. Thus, Albie's desire for emotion being included in sex is illogical. With this, Woody Allen shows the viewers that when love and emotion is put into sex, in the end, it ultimately fails. Allen gives an example of a bad sexual encounter when Albie has sex with a reporter. After finishing, the reporter apologizes for taking so long to finish. This is Allen's way of implying that their experience was lacking enjoyment. Albie's feelings for Annie intruded on the sex with the reporter, which proves that when emotions are involved, there are negative consequences. The reporter goes on to state, "Oh, sex with you is really a Kafkaesque experience." Although she claims she meant it in a good way, viewers can infer that she felt sex with him had nightmarish qualities or that it was a generally unpleasant experience. After her comments, Albie gives reasons he believes that too much emphasis is placed on the orgasm, which can be viewed as his way of trying to redeem himself from delaying her. This depicts male-female dynamics in relation to sex. Men are typically expected to pleasure a woman and are considered inadequate if the woman is not satisfied afterwards. In his film, Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex, But Were Afraid to Ask, Woody Allen uses comedy to answer various questions about sex that may be uncomfortable to ask. In his scene titled, What is Sodomy?, Woody Allen proves he believes sex is a joke by showing Dr. Ross committing adultery with a sheep. Initially, the doctor was skeptical about a man and an animal having intimacy, but as soon as he meets the sheep, his entire perspective changes. Alan uses this scene to show how people typically have strict opinions regarding sexual relations. Dr. Ross changing his mind shows how easily views can change, which is representative of how sexual values change throughout the years. When the doctor and the sheep first have sex, the doctor is filled with a strong love for the sheep. Alan uses this to mock love being involved in sex. If love was a major element required for sex, then sexual relations with animals would be endorsed. He is implying that it is a ridiculous concept and will only cause trouble. To support this, Dr. Ross's marriage ended and he lost both his job and his sanity. This scene also prevents the audience from becoming aroused or supportive of this couple, so to speak. If the audience were to become aroused, it would make them question everything that they knew about sex. One of those questions is to whether or not that they too are susceptible to being intimately involved with animals. Ultimately, Woody Allen keeps his audience focused on the humor of the scene while also questioning their values. In the last scene of the film, Woody Allen mocks the process that occurs inside the body during a sexual encounter. He takes viewers through a step-by-step process that starts with dinner and progresses to sex in the parking lot outside of the restaurant. Once again, he adds humor by making fun of performance anxiety. Although this is a topic many men would find hard to come to terms with, he presents it as a joke. To do this, he shows men inside of the penis turning a crane's lever to lift the penis while simultaneously inflating it with a pump to increase the size. These actions clearly allude to Sidney developing an erection without actually showing the couple being intimate. By focusing on the physiology of the act instead of the passionate aspects, he makes a serious topic amusing rather than emotional. Woody Allen also satirizes religion contributing to sex. During the scene, a priest is caught in the cerebral cortex, and the other body operators scorn him for attempting to stop Sidney from having sex. The priest shouts that sex before marriage is sinful, and they should be ashamed for partaking in this act. He challenges an otherwise enjoyable activity and appears to be insane since he shouts wildly, which depicts him as an enemy. Allen's use of the priest expresses his belief that this concept is ridiculous and should be disregarded. In addition to this, Allen takes away from the arousal factor from this scene. The sex scene should have aroused the viewers, but as soon as an erotic moment is shown, Allen quickly switches to a clip with the little men working inside of Sidney to prepare him for this intercourse. One reason Woody is so prolific is that, like almost every great artist, he is a prolific recycler of his life. His ideas, he says, all have some autobiographical content in that they spring from a germ of experience that he turns and augments. Based on this quote from Eric Lax's Woody Allen, a biography, it can be assumed that Allen's sex scenes are impacted by his real-life experiences. Some things, which are obviously based off his life, include the clarinetist in Sleeper, the setting of Annie Hall in New York, and finally, the psychiatric scene in several of his movies. These relate directly to his life because he plays a clarinet, he grew up in New York, and, you guessed it, he saw a psychiatrist for several years. Based on this information, it can be inferred that his sex scenes may also have been influenced by his personal life. He has been married 6 times, which provides strong evidence that he is unable to maintain an emotional relationship. This would cause him to omit emotion in his sex scenes, since he was lacking it in his relationships as well.